This tutorial will guide you through creating a simple wobbling flame with some smooth animated characteristics. By the end, you'll have a cartoon-style flame effect ready to be used in your projects. Left-click the default cube and hit X to delete it. Press Shift-A and go to Mesh UV Sphere. Tab into Edit Mode and use the O key to turn on proportional editing. Use the C key for Circle Select and select the top faces of the UV sphere. Pull the top faces of the UV sphere up into a rough teardrop shape using the G and Z keys and the scroll wheel. This will act as the base for your flame. Use the O key to turn off proportional editing. In Object Mode, right-click your UV sphere and select Shade Smooth. Add a subdivision surface modifier with the modifiers panel and set it to level 3. This smooths out the geometry, giving it a nice soft look. With your UV sphere selected, go to the modifiers panel and add a displace modifier. Click New Texture and call the texture Flame Ripple. Under the displace modifier, change the coordinates to Object. We'll use an empty object to control the displacement. Press Shift-A and choose Empty Plane Axis. This will serve as the controller for the displacement. With the UV sphere selected, go to the modifier stack and tie the empty to the object of the displace modifier by selecting it from the list. Go to the texture properties of the flame ripple texture and add a Voronoi texture. Set the size and tweak the contrast in the Colors tab. Adjust these until the appearance is to your liking. Move the empty object around. You'll see the flame wobble as the Voronoi texture reacts to the empty's position. Select the empty object and using the N key, open the Object Properties panel. Select the Z-axis under Location and input pound frame divided by 10 to make the flame wobble over time. The number controls the speed. Feel free to adjust it. Make sure you have the Node Wrangler add-on activated. Go to the Shading tab and add a new material named Red Flame. Delete the default Principled BSDF shader. Use Shift-A to add an emission shader. This makes the flame glow like a real fire. Connect the emission shader to the surface input of the material output. Use Shift-A to add a Voronoi texture node and connect to 2 color ramp nodes, using the distance output of the Voronoi texture. Move the white color stop of the first color ramp to the left, around position 0.7. Set the interpolation of the second color ramp to constant and adjust the white color stop to control the size of your flames. Add a transparent BSDF node and mix it with the emission shader using a mix shader node. Connect the second color ramp output to the factor of the mix shader and disconnect it from the emission shader. In the Material Properties tab, set the Render method to Blended to control the transparency and edge sharpness. Add an invert color node between the second color ramp and the mix shader to reverse the gradient. Select the Voronoi texture and use Ctrl-T to add a mapping and texture coordinate node. This will help you to control the scale and positioning of the Voronoi texture. Set the Voronoi scale to 8 for the initial flame detail. Using Shift-D, duplicate the mapping Voronoi and first color ramp nodes. Set the Voronoi scale to 16 for finer, smaller details. Connect the texture coordinate to the second mapping node. Using Shift-D, duplicate the mapping, Voronoi, and color ramp nodes. Set the Voronoi scale to 4 for larger, more spread out flames. Connect the texture coordinate to the third mapping node. Use Shift-A to add a mixed color node to combine the main flames and the small flames. Connect the color ramp from these small flames to the B input of the mixed color node. Connect the color ramp from the main flames to the A input of the mixed color node. Connect the mixed color node to the factor of the second color ramp of the main flames. Change the mixed color node blending mode to soft light and change the factor to 1. Use Shift-A to add a mixed color node to combine the large flames and small flames. Connect the color ramp from the large flames to the B input of the mixed color node. Connect the mixed color node from the small flames to the A input of the mixed color node. Connect the mixed color node to the factor of the second color ramp of the main flames. Change the mixed color node blending mode to soft light and change the factor to 1. Select the first group of mapping Voronoi and first color ramp nodes. Use Ctrl-J to create a frame node. Right-click and rename the frame to main flames. Select the second group of mapping Voronoi and color ramp nodes. Use Ctrl-J to add a frame node. Right-click and rename the frame to small frames. Select the third group of mapping Voronoi and color ramp nodes. Use Ctrl-J to create a frame node. Right-click and rename the frame to large frames. Add a new mixed color node and connect it to the A input of the small flames mixed color node. Add a gradient texture node and connect it to the A input of the new mixed color node. Connect the main flames to the B input of the mixed color node. This will make the flame taper off at the top, adding some nice details. Add a mapping and texture coordinate node to the gradient texture. Rotate the y-axis to -90 degrees and adjust the x location to position the flame at the bottom of the UV sphere. Add drivers to the z-axis of each location of the flame mapping node. For the main flames, use pound frame divided by -30. For the small flames, use pound frame divided by -60. For the large frames, use pound frame divided by -15. This will create a nice staggered flame movement. Set the emission strength to about 6 and change the color to a bright red for a bright fiery effect. Duplicate the UV sphere and scale and rotate it slightly. Duplicate the flame red material and change the colors to create variations: orange, yellow, and white flames. For each new flame, tweak the color ramp and Voronoi textures so they look unique. To add bloom in Blender 4.2 and above, under the shading option, make sure Compositor is set to always. Open the compositing workspace and activate Use Nodes. Use Shift-A to add a glare node between the render layer and composite nodes. Change the glare type to bloom. To see how this is affecting the flame, add a viewer node and connect the glare node. Use F12 to render the image. You can adjust the strength and saturation fields to make adjustments to the bloom. To see the animation, go into render mode, open up the timeline, and use the play button. If you want to slow the animation down, under the output properties, select Custom for the frame rate and lower the FPS. And there you have it, procedural cartoon flames in Blender. You now have a flame effect that wobbles, flickers, and has multiple layers of animated fire. Feel free to tweak the parameters further to get the exact look you want. Thanks for following along with this tutorial. If you found this helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe. Have a good day.